Hey friends, it's me, Chekhov. In case you're new here, I'm a freelance artist and the creator of White Diamond AU. This is the first video in what will possibly be a series of other videos where I take the time to answer some questions while you watch me draw stuff. I heard from other, hopefully reliable sources that this is the sort of thing that is relatively fun for people, so I thought I'd give it a shot. Today I'm going to be drawing the promo poster for White Diamond AU Season 5, which is not actually ready yet. I'm currently kind of working through it best I can, but I'm also working on the SU AU Fan Artapalooza, so, you know, it may be a while. Initially, I had this idea to make a promo poster which depicted a chessboard, with all the gems on it as the pieces. There were several ways to do it, of course, but I think I just ended up going for the easiest one. Now, for the asks. The reality is that I have over 3,000 unanswered asks in my inbox currently. I get a lot at a time, and usually when I post a comic, I don't have the energy to reply to all of them, and so they pile up. Of course, a chunk of these are for Steven and are to be used in the comic itself someday, hopefully. But a few of them are directed at me, and I feel truly sorry for essentially ignoring them for this long. To start with, we're going to get a few of the most common questions out of the way. Now, keep in mind, these have been answered before on my blog, in great detail. But the nature of internet users these days is that they don't really like to go spelunking into the depths of the old blog posts, and by old I mean anything older than a few days. So they come up again and again, repeatedly, and that's fine. I figured maybe if I put them in a video format, they'll be more accessible. So, without further ado, the question I get asked most often out of all of them is perhaps, why did White Diamond have Steven? This is the question I get quite a bit, for very understandable reasons. It's kind of the most important question driving the story forward. I mean, yeah, it's a reasonable thing to ask about. Why would White Diamond have a child? That seems very unlike her. In the canon show, Rose obviously had Steven because she met Greg, learned to respect human beings as human beings, learned about change, and realized what she wanted was to have that chance to become something new. In a very literal way. Also, she likely thought that after 5,000 years of relative quiet, Homeworld had finally forgotten all about the Earth, and definitely could not have known that her son was in for a ticking time bomb of plot events. But with White Diamond Steven, we really don't know, and really don't get many hints at all about why White did what she did. That isn't to say there are zero hints. I definitely throw some very subtle foreshadowing out there. But it's oblique for a reason, guys. I'm not going to give away a secret that big without a fight. So the answer to this is, as always, read and find out. We will get there in the end. Who is Steven's dad? It's Greg. It's still Greg. I got this question a lot more in the beginning of the comic before Greg's backstory came out, but sometimes people are still confused. No, it's just Greg, guys. It's Greg. Steven even looks like Greg. It's Greg. Why doesn't Greg recognize Steven? This question obviously follows logically from the last. Greg doesn't act like he's even a little bit suspicious about Steven being his son, which may seem weird because even the townies have recognized their vague resemblance. Barb, the male woman, thinks he's Greg's nephew, for example. But no, Greg has no idea Steven is his kid, or could be. He doesn't know he has a kid, and he would not guess it. So, that's why. Is Rose still... Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's lampshaded several times within the comic itself. There's a comic where she's poofed and her gem. Yeah, she is. I'm honestly a bit concerned people still ask. Doesn't hurt to ask, I guess, but I'm not hiding it. It's not a secret. She absolutely is, yeah.
Will Steven ever rescue Spanel?
So, I have to confess that while I actually don't hate Spanel, I'm not the biggest fan of her as a character. And unfortunately, the people who demand I put Spanel into the comics, despite the narrative difficulties, have not exactly helped those feelings. Don't get me wrong, I think she's a good character and her design is certainly fun. But personally, she's just not my cup of tea. As for rescuing her, here's the thing. Just like in the canon show up until very recently, the gems were trapped on Earth by their own design. The galaxy warp was broken. So it wasn't as if Rose, or anyone else for that matter, could just pop off world to grab her real quick. They were landlocked. It's a straight up plot point. And beyond that, I just don't want to concentrate on anything after Change Your Mind. It's still canon to me, of course, but I want to focus on the events of the main show, not the movie. So I'm sorry, but no, Spanel won't be in this comic. And it gets less and less likely every time someone tries to send me an ask guilt-tripping me about it. Will Bismuth and any other gem be in this comic? Bismuth will absolutely be in the comic, yes. I have her planned and have had her planned for a while. As for how Steven will get to her while she's in Lion's Mane, look, all I'm gonna say is that Bismuth's bubble is way older than Lion. It had to be somewhere. Will Rose have canon Steven? Another very popular question, and while I understand that the AU vibes are strong, I'm just gonna point out that Rose has a lot on her plate right now, and having a child is the last thing on her mind. Do you think she'd have wanted to have a kid if she'd known that barely a decade later some random Paradot would break into their planet house to fiddle with the secret world-destroying weapon buried under the crust? You really think? It's not likely. It's not likely. Will Lapis and Paradot and Jasper have a redemption arc? I'm not a huge fan of spoiling events that will happen in the comic. I think that while the story is still ongoing, the best and most organic way to enjoy the plot is by experiencing as a comic, not as a random reply the artists gave somewhere once upon a time. As such, I will simply say that at least one of those three will have something that may vaguely resemble a redemption arc. Beyond that, read and find out. How come the gems don't realize Steven is human? He bled right in front of them. Another very common question I get a lot. And I get it, it seems simple. Gems are rocks. Rocks shouldn't be expelling liquids from their light projection bodies. Except in canon Steven universe, Pearl cries, and Amethyst barfs, and bees, and also cries. You can argue that it's an illusion of light, but that doesn't change the fact that visually gems could bleed if they wanted to. To them, Steven's bleeding is just his preferred way of expelling liquids. What are blue and yellow doing now that white is gone? Are they panicking? They might be, but keep in mind, white remained locked in her head for millennia while blue and yellow ran homeworld. Steven has only existed for 15 years. That's barely a blink of an eye to beings with a lifespan that spans eons. So, it's entirely possible that they just don't even know she's gone. And that is it for today's round of questions. Now, those were the most frequently asked questions that I had handpicked specifically for this first video, but in the future, I actually have a couple of really interesting questions that are directed at me or are about the comic in a meta sense that I hope to tackle, so tune in when we come back, draw something new, and answer those. Thanks for watching. Do whatever you like. I don't care about your subscriptions or your likes, but if you enjoyed this, do let me know, because that means that I'll get to keep making more of this stuff for you. Cheers! Look, all I'm gonna say is that Bismuth,